bike there is a 46 Indian Chief. I got it started off with a frame and then slowly accumulated all the motor bits and pieces, and it's still coming together. The other one is a 49 Harley 45. It was a civilian bike. I got it as a chopper and kind of converted it back to semi-modified custom, I guess you call it, just suede paint. And the 50 Chev I had since I was 21, which makes it about 34 years ago I got it. So I've had it a long time. Yeah. My son's 21, he's never had a ride in it. He was conceived in it, I think. And that's about it. It's been sitting in that corner for 22 years now.
After a short visit here, it was time for us to move on. Another classic garage with some beautiful cars out front. I went inside to learn more on one of their latest creations.
We bought it about 12 years ago, I guess, and went great guns, big expectations for the first year, and then it just sat. It was a real big project, so we kind of lost interest in it, and then about 5 or 6 years later we decided that, you know, if we don't do it, it ain't going to get done. So poured the coals to her for about 2 straight years and finally got it finished. Originally had a 265 with a 3-speed standard transmission, and we gunned that out and put a clip in it. It's got a Nova clip with disc brakes and 350 Chev, turbo 400. Rear end's all stock. It's a 4-door that was stretched in 1956. What they did is they put 4 doors down each side and had basically bus seats in it, so that you could, they used it originally to take all the skiers up the slopes in Banff up skiing.
So what other ones do we have outside there?
30 Model A I've had since 1986.
There's always street rods for sale if you don't have the time to build your own, but always wanted a vintage car. Well, we didn't find any of that cheap gas here, but I'm sure if you have one of these motorized bar stools, it's not such a problem. So that was our day here. Time for us to get back on the road. So we all had a fun day of cruising and talking car stuff. But tomorrow we'll be off to the Saanich swap meet, where thousands of people would all be doing the same. Lots of cars would be here, from the classic speedsters to the modern day street rods. And of course, lots and lots of parts to build your own. So hang on to your seatbelts and we'll be right back. We arrived at the Saanich Fairgrounds for the swap meet at 8 o'clock, only 1 hour after it started. As we drove in, everything was going at full steam and already hundreds of people here. Lots and lots of early bird shoppers here. Everyone wanted to get what they needed or buy the best deal before it even got off the truck and onto the vendor's ground. You know what they say, one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
I've been coordinating this for the last 2 years. This is the 2nd year. We've got about 65 volunteers working on it, and it's one day to set it up and one day to, it's a one-day event. Takes a bit of preparation for the few months before, advertising and so on. People are looking for parts, but it's also very much a social event where they're meeting old friends, maybe people they haven't seen since a year ago, you know. It's primarily a car swap meet, car and car parts swap meet, and gas station memorabilia, tools. Normally we wouldn't get marine type stuff. Trucks, motorbikes, we quite happy to get. But if somebody wants to bring in a boat, especially a classic boat like the Chris Craft, that's great. pretty much a cross-section of parts, pre-war and post-war, right up into the 70s probably. Most of the cars down in the car corral this year are probably 60s and 70s cars. And maybe a few 50s, but mostly 60s and 70s.
None of these are high mileage cars. If you see a collector plate on a car, it's just it's a very low mileage car, because it just, unless they tend to go to Detroit for a show or something like that, that puts on the mileage.
What is the car?
It is a 1923 Model T Bug. And in the early days, people used to take Model T running gear and they would make their own race car in their own backyard. So everyone looked different. This is my husband, Joe. Well, what I'm going to do is let Joe talk to you because he can tell you all the technical data.
20 horsepower, 4-cylinder Model T running gear, 1923, with the original brakes, transmission brake. It's got a top speed of 42 miles an hour, and as the braking power is very poor in Model Ts, it's not advised to go at top speed. It keeps up to any Model T in Victoria. To make them high performance, some of the fellows would put lead in the head to reduce the space in the cylinder, make it a higher compression, which was not advisable because the way they bolted it in there, the bolt would get cherry red hot and it'd give you pre-ignition. From the middle of May to probably the end of September, there's at least every weekend there's something going on somewhere on South Vancouver Island. Either a show and shine.
Victoria area has one of the highest concentration of vintage, classic, muscle cars and everything else in between. That means all types of the car restoration business here in Victoria is thriving and is now being known for its first-class workmanship throughout the world.
This is a 1928 Cadillac LaSalle. Victoria is the body style, and it's a basically one of a kind. There's another one, Fleetwood body in Australia, but as far as I know, this is the only one that's left of 405 that were originally built. It's runs 303 cubic inch engine, and the engine has never been opened up. It's basically an original car. Well, likely to have maybe a couple of 100 miles a year on it, but this is why it's got the vintage plates rather than collector plates, because it's such a low mileage vehicle. And it's only got 85,000 on it on the odometer now, so and we think that may well be the original mileage as well, because it sat in the museum when there was a car museum in Victoria. It was in there for about 10 years, and it was stored in another garage for about 10 years, so it's had quite a bit of storage and downtime. So.
I want you to get together.
If you can go home with less stuff than you came, you're doing well. There's an awful lot of these fellas, including us, as you sell your stuff, you buy the other guy's stuff. So.
It was time for us to leave also. Back into the streets, some of that local traffic. But eventually this Chevelle would make its way home and be put back to sleep until its next cruise of barely street legal cars in Victoria.
I want you to get together.